Today, we're exposing some bad habits that might be slowing down your English process. Sometimes it's not about what you're not doing, it's about what you're already doing that's holding you back. So, we're going to break down 9 common bad habits that make learning English harder. Let's start with the first bad habit: overusing translation apps. Oh, yeah, this is a big one. When you see a new word, do you immediately grab your phone and translate it into Chinese? If you do, you're not alone. Translation apps can be helpful, but relying on them too much is a problem. It slows you down because you're always switching between languages instead of thinking in English. And let's be real, translations aren't always accurate. Some words don't have a perfect match in other languages. Plus, if you're always translating, you're stuck in your native language structure, and that makes it harder to form natural English sentences. So how do we face this? First, switch to an English dictionary like Merriam-Webster or Cambridge instead of a bilingual one. And before checking a dictionary, try to guess the meaning from the context. Your brain will get better at understanding English naturally. Another great trick is explaining words in English instead of translating. Like instead of translating amused, try explaining it. You could say something like amused means feeling happy and entertained by something funny or interesting. See? No translation needed. Try this method and soon you'll start thinking in English more easily. Alright, let's move on to the second bad habit. This one might surprise you. The second bad habit is memorizing advanced or high-level words. A lot of learners think using big fancy words will make them sound fluent. But here's the truth. Native speakers rarely use complicated words in daily conversations. You don't need to sound like a dictionary to sound fluent. If you memorize real words without really knowing how to use them, your speech might sound unnatural or even confusing. Like imagine saying your perspicacity is impressive. Most native speakers would just say, you're really sharp. And the problem with memorizing difficult words is that they don't stick if you never use them. So how do we fix this? First, focus on common, useful words that native speakers actually say, and learn words in context. Don't just memorize word lists. See how words are used in real sentences. A great trick is using one new word per day in a sentence. Like instead of memorizing perspicacious, just use sharp or observant. Try saying she's really sharp, she notices everything. That sounds way more natural. So don't waste time on words you'll never use. Focus on the words that actually help you communicate. The third bad habit is focusing too much on grammar. Okay, don't get me wrong. Grammar is important, but obsessing over it can actually hold you back. If you're always thinking, is this the right tense? Did I use the correct preposition? You might freeze and stop yourself from speaking. The thing is, native speakers don't think about grammar rules while talking. They don't pause and analyze their sentence structures. They just speak. So instead of memorizing grammar rules, focus on learning phrases and sentence patterns naturally. When you hear the same sentence structure again and again, your brain picks it up without you needing to analyze every word. One great way to do this is by listening to real conversations, like in podcasts, YouTube videos, or TV shows. When you listen to real English, you'll start to notice grammar patterns without forcing yourself to memorize them. So don't let grammar rules slow you down. Focus on learning patterns from real conversations, and your grammar will improve naturally. Now let's move on to the next bad habit. This one stops a lot of people from improving. The fourth bad habit is relying only on passive learning. Watching movies and listening to podcasts is great, but if you never actually use English, your speaking won't improve. You might understand English perfectly when you hear it, but when it's your turn to speak, your brain freezes. That's because listening and speaking are two different skills. And a lot of learners amuse that just exposing themselves to English, watching TV shows, listening to podcasts, reading articles will magically make them fluent. But it doesn't work that way. Imagine trying to learn how to swim just by watching videos. If you never get in the water, you won't actually know how to swim. So if you want to speak English fluently, you have to practice speaking. Passive learning is useful, but it's not enough on its own. So how do we face this? First, make speaking a daily habit. Even if you don't have a conversation partner, just talk to yourself. Describe what you're doing, your thoughts, or even repeat what you hear from a podcast or video. Speaking out loud helps train your brain to form sentences naturally. Another great technique is shadowing. You listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, copying their pronunciation and rhythm. It's one of the best ways to sound more natural. And don't forget about writing. A lot of learners only focus on speaking, but writing helps you organize your thoughts in English. Even something simple like keeping a daily journal, posting on social media, or commenting on videos can help. And the more you actively use English, the faster you'll improve. So don't just listen, speak and write every day. The fourth bad habit is memorizing vocabulary without context. A lot of learners try to memorize long word lists, thinking it'll help them speak better. But the problem is words don't exist alone. They exist in sentences, phrases, and real conversations. If you memorize words one by one, you won't know how to actually use them. That's why so many learners struggle to form natural sentences. They know the words, but they don't know how they fit together. Native speakers don't learn words in isolation. They pick up phrases naturally from conversations. That's what makes their speech flow effortlessly. That's why learning vocabulary with context is so important. Instead of just memorizing run into, you should learn it as a part of a sentence, like I ran into my friend at a mall yesterday. Now, you actually understand that it means to meet somebody unexpectedly. So how do we face this habit? First, never learn words alone. Always learn them inside full sentences. Second, notice how words are used in real conversations, whether it's in movies, podcasts, or books. Pay attention to the way native speakers naturally combine words. And finally, for every new word you learn, find at least 3 example sentences. The more you see it in action, the better you'll remember it. So if you have been struggling with vocabulary, try focusing on learning with context. It'll make a huge difference. Now let's talk about the sixth bad habit, sticking to comfortable vocabulary. It's really easy to rely on words you know well, like very good or bad, because they are simple and safe. But using them too much limits your growth in English. These basic words might get the job done, but they don't help you sound more natural or precise. Imagine if you always said very cold instead of finding a better word like freezing. It's just not as impactful. The key is to challenge yourself to use more specific natural words instead of relying on the same old ones. You can start by replacing words like very with something more precise. For example, instead of saying very cold, you could say freezing. It's not only more accurate, but also makes your English sound smoother and more confident. Another example, instead of saying very tired, try exhausted. It's a more powerful word that really gets your point across. And if you want to describe feeling very happy, you could say thrilled. It's a much stronger and more colorful way to express your emotions. So how do we face this? Start challenging yourself to replace basic words with more natural, specific alternatives. A good way to practice is by learning synonyms and phrases that native speakers actually use. When you hear them, try to repeat them until they feel natural. And just like we have been saying, practice makes perfect. The more you push yourself to expand your vocabulary, the more comfortable you'll feel using it. And the best part, this will help you sound more like a native speaker, which is the goal. Let's move on to the seventh bad habit, not asking questions when you don't understand. It's so easy to just nod or say, yeah, uh-huh, when you are lost in a conversation. But that only leads to confusion and misunderstandings. Sometimes learners feel embarrassed to ask for clarification, thinking it might make them look bad. But that's totally not the case. Native speakers won't judge you for asking questions. The worst thing you can do is pretend to understand. It just keeps you stuck. If you're confused, you need to ask. It's the only way to make sure you are on the same page. So instead of just nodding, try using simple phrases like, sorry, could you say that again? Or what does that word mean? Those are polite and clear ways to ask for help. Another great phrase is, can you give me an example? If you're still confused, don't hesitate to ask for further explanation. It shows that you want to learn and improve. And if you're unsure about what you heard, you can always repeat it back to check if you understand correctly. Something like, so you are saying blah blah blah. It's a good way to double check. It's a great way to ensure you got the message right. Don't let the fear of asking hold you back. It's better to ask than to stay confused. For example, instead of pretending you understand taking it for granted, you could ask, sorry, what do you mean by taking it for granted? That way, you'll know exactly what's being said. Asking questions is a powerful tool for learning. It opens up conversations and gives you the chance to practice more. Now let's talk about the eighth bad habit, believing you are too old to learn. It's common for adults to think that only kids or younger people can pick up languages easily, but that mindset can really hold you back. Some adults think that because they are old, they won't be able to learn as easily or quickly as younger learners are. But that's not the truth at all. In fact, adults often have an advantage when it comes to learning. We have a better life experience, more advanced learning strategies, and a deeper understanding of grammar, logic, and patterns. These things actually make it easier to learn languages faster. Adults can make sense of grammar rules more efficiently than kids, and they can connect new information with things they already know. So it's not about age, it's about leveraging what you already know. Instead of focusing on how young people might seem to learn more easily, focus on your own strength. You have a lot of skills that make language learning more effective. And it's also about setting realistic goals. If you compare yourself to kids, you only get discouraged. But when you set smaller, achievable goals, you'll feel proud of the process you're making. Remember, thousands of adults learn English successfully every year. If they can do it, so can you. You're definitely not alone. So let go of that belief that you're too old. Embrace the learning process and celebrate the experience because you are more capable than you think. And finally, let's talk about inconsistent practice. It's easy to fall into the trap of studying intensively for a few days and then take long breaks. And this can actually slow down your process. The key to mastering English or any language is regular practice. Studying for long hours once a week is nowhere near as effective as practicing every day for just 15 to 30 minutes. When you take long breaks between sessions, your brain forgets what you have already learned. But if you make English a daily habit, even for just 10 minutes a day, you'll see much better results. And it's not just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar. You need to use English in different ways. Listen, speak, write, and read. The more you incorporate it into your daily life, the faster you'll improve. That's why finding fun ways to practice is important. Watch shows, play language games, or chat with friends in English. Make it something enjoyable, not a chore. So instead of studying for 3 hours once a week, try practicing just 20 minutes every day with small activities like writing, listening, and speaking. Consistency is key. And remember, consistent fun practice is what will help you succeed. Stay motivated and keep learning.